Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Welcome to the West Basin Municipal Water District Water Policy and Legislation Committee and special meeting of the Board of Directors for November 10th. It is now 1:24. I'm calling this meeting to order. Mr. General Manager, do we have a quorum?
Madam Chair, I'll read roll call. Director Don Deere.
Thank you.
Here. Chairwoman Gloria Gray.
Yes, here.
Director Scott Houston. Director Tommy Fabai. Here. Director Desi Alvarez. Madam Chairwoman, we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here, board members. The next item is public comment. Do we have anyone from the public who wishes to speak?
Madam Chair, we have not received any requests for public comment, though this meeting is being held both in person and virtually. If there's any member of the public that would like to speak under public comment, please indicate so by raising your virtual hand. And Madam Chair, I do not see a request for public comment.
Thank you very much. The next item is presentation. Are there any presentations?
Staff has no presentations today.
All right, thank you. Next item, action calendar. Could you please introduce the action calendar item? Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair. I'll introduce item 5A is consideration of our state and federal legislative advocacy service agreements. For this presentation, we do have Matt Bay, our Manager of Water Policy and Resources Development. This item begins on packet page 3. And if I might, I did want to remind the committee that this item was brought as an information item at last month's Water Policy and Legislative Committee. At that time, the committee recommended that staff move forward with extending the agreements of our existing state and federal lobbyists for another period of 2 years. Staff intended to do as such and bring back an action item with the extension. However, as a reminder, at the board meeting, we did have a Director Desi Alvarez, asked that this item be brought back for consideration with the expectation or direction to move forward with an RFP, a request for proposals. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Matt Bay, and then at the conclusion of his report, I might add a few words. So I'll hand it to Matt.
Okay, thank you, EJ, and good afternoon, President Gray and board members. Hopefully you can hear me okay, President Gray.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So we can go ahead and move forward to the slides on packet page 15. And so EJ did a really nice job of kind of recapping the actions from last month on this. And these are the same slides that I did present on last month. So I'll kind of just go through these somewhat briefly, but just touch on some of the main points that staff would like this committee to hear about. So if we move to the next slide, please, Desiree. So again, we're at a point where our 2 advocacy contracts for both state and federal services are coming to an expiration at the end of this calendar year, December 31st. And so we're at a point now where we would either like to extend the agreements for both of our lobbyists, or if need be, if directed by the board, we could go out to RFP for new contracts for these services. Just again, as a quick recap, Neomela Pappas and Associates is our current state advocacy team. It's led by Emily Pappas, the partner, and Jamie Miner, the principal. I believe that everyone on the board is pretty familiar with both of them and the great work that they've done for us for now, let's see, six years now. Again, I did have the opportunity to speak with Emily and to talk about the opportunity to continue working for West Basin. She did express her strong desire to continue to represent the organization, which was great. She also did say that she's happy to kind of keep the current contract amount that we have for them on an annual basis the same. And again, I would just remind this body that's been the same since 2019, since they were originally contracted with us. And so no changes there. If we move to the next slide, again, there's a whole kind of longer list of achievements and highlights that NPA has helped us achieve the last couple of years. But again, we all know that they do a great job with the lobby days in Sacramento. They have great relationships with all of our delegation in Sacramento. They've done a great job of getting us meetings when we need to talk with certain legislators. And they've also done a great job with the climate bond that passed last year. There's now the Prop 4 climate bond implementation plan that's being rolled out. And they really have a great understanding of that. Jamie Miners does a great job of bringing to our attention when there's actions taking place in budget subcommittees or other policy committees related to that. And so for us and working with NPA, there's really a lot going on. We're in the middle of a 2-year session. And so from staff's perspective, it would be really nice to continue to have that continuity with NPA. They understand us very well. Again, they have really good relationships with our state representatives and with the Prop 4 implementation and some of the other issues that we're dealing with on a statewide level, metropolitan level. It would be very, I think, valuable to consider continuing to work with NPA for another 2-year period there. If we move forward to the next slide to talk about our federal firm, which is Vanscoy Associates. Again, I think most of the board has met with them or has visited with them either in DC or out here in our headquarters. They've been representing us now for 8 years. Pete Ebich is kind of our primary lead, and then Jeff Bowman also supports us strongly on a number of different issues. They're a great team that has worked for us for 8 years now. And again, if we move to the next slide, we can talk about some of the bigger things there. So again, they got us our huge authorization several years back now, the $35 million for Harbor South Bay for the Army Corps of Engineers. Again, they're great at putting together meetings that we need with our federal delegation, whether it be out here or in Washington, D.C. And again, just with the current environment that we have back in Washington, D.C. with the new federal administration, all of the different impacts that's having on California and water agencies and Army Corps of Engineers that you may have heard about with some of the changes in funding priorities for the administration. It's really, really helpful and valuable to have Pete and Jeff kind of working on our behalf. They can kind of put their ear to the ground out there in DC and let us know what's happening. Just today or yesterday, they sent us new information about kind of the federal shutdown and what's happening with that. So they're very reliable and very helpful when it comes to kind of giving us the heads up on what's happening out in DC. So again, with some of those, with that environment, having that continuity in place is very helpful for staff. And again, we would definitely express our interest in continuing to work with them. And just like with NPA, VSA, again, would like to continue representing us. They also have said that they would be happy to keep our current rates that we have with them the same for another 2-year period. So again, no increase in cost for either of our 2 agreements should we go that route. So with that said, I think EJ again did a great job of recapping of where we stand. We do have 2 options for the committee and the board to consider in terms of a recommendation. Director Deere always likes to ask, well, what is staff's recommendation? And so while we have the 2 options, I will say that staff is recommending to continue to work with both NPA and VSA for another 2-year period. That said, if it is the direction of the board to go out to RFP, we're happy to do that as well. But I did want to at least note our staff's perspective that we would appreciate the opportunity to continue working with both of those firms. So with that said, I'll turn it back.
Thank you, Matt.
And
Director Deere,
Nothing.
I'm going. Oh, EJ, you want to say something before?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just wanted to briefly mention, so as Matt said at the end of his report, when we brought this as an information item seeking direction from the board of directors, it was asked of staff what our recommendation was. At that time, we did recommend that we move forward with the existing agreements. I do know that we do not have Director Alvarez here, and while I would never want to speak for him, I would like to at least raise his two issues that he mentioned at the board meeting. First and foremost, he felt that just as a matter of practice, we should go out to RFP and go through that process to see what is out there. And secondly, he mentioned at the board meeting that in his belief with the current federal administration, he doesn't believe that it's needed West Basin utilize a federal lobbyist. And so depending on what the board chooses to do here, this item would move forward to the full board. I do know that Director Alvarez plans to be here in person for that meeting. And so he could obviously speak up at that time to raise his concerns as well. So I just wanted to mention that to give credit to the comments that he made at the board.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. Director Deere, do you have any comments before I make my comment?
No, I don't.
And then Director Fabai. I'm sorry, go on, Director Deere.
No, thank you.
He has no comments.
Director Fabai. Director Fabai.
Yes, yes, I'd like to make a comment. I think we should recommend the staff's recommendation of option one to move forward to the board. That's my comments.
Your comment is staff recommendation. And Director Deere, you're the other member of the committee. You don't have a comment relative to the recommendation,
Actually,
the option.
I'm not on this committee.
Yes.
I'm just here
Oh,
as a
Who's
director.
the,
So you're the
You're
member
the
of the
member.
committee.
That's what I'm saying on here.
who's the member?
It's
Tell me again, staff.
Director Deere.
It says that,
Good.
It's Gloria's the chair.
Houston and Alvarez.
That's her.
What? Wrong date?
Yeah.
What did it make it say?
Director Deere, you're the member with me on the committee.
Okay, oh, good, then, all right.
Yep.
All right, then I'll be more vocal,
Okay,
but not right now.
okay. My comment is that I think the company that we have, the Door Lobbying, has done a great job. It does cost to go out and do an RFP. I think they've been with us for, 4 years? Is that correct?
VSA,
How many years?
VSA has been with us since 2018. And
So that's
NPA,
7 years.
yeah, and NPA has been
Sure.
with us for 6 years.
Yeah, I know there's some thought about going out to see what's out there, but then Director Alvarez said we really don't need one, so I'm not quite sure what all that means if his recommendation is to go out and bid, but then he doesn't feel that way. So we need a lobbyist, but I do think we need a lobbyist. I do support option one, I think it is, the staff recommendation. And so Director Deere, you're the member. Do you want to move it forward with the recommendation, or you do not want to make any comments right
Yes,
now?
I'd be glad to move it with the staff's recommendation, yes.
I didn't hear what he said.
Moving it forward with the staff's recommendation, yes.
Thank you very much. So the committee, and thank you, Director Pavai, for your comment. Staff, can you move it forward with the recommendation? Director Alvarez will have an opportunity to make his comments at the full board, but the committee recommends option A or one.
Will do. Thank you for the direction.
Thank you very much. Can you go to the next item?
Yes, Madam Chair. The next item is item 6A. It's our monthly state and federal legislative update. For this presentation, we do have Augustine Hahn, our Water Policy and Resources Development Analyst. And this item begins on packet page 20.
Thank you, EJ. Thank you, Chairwoman Gray and directors. I will direct your attention to the PowerPoint slides beginning on page 50. And we'll move on to the next slide. Next one. And get started with the update here. So the governor's end of session decisions reflected both a tightening command over the Democratic legislature and a pragmatic streak in balancing environmental and economic priorities. Newsom leaned heavily on his relationships with lawmakers, including a 6-bill energy package that included the reauthorization of California's landmark climate program, the Cap and Trade, or now titled the Cap and Invest program. At the same time, he exercised restraint in areas touching high growth sectors like data centers and AI. He vetoing measures he viewed as overly rigid. Overall, Newsom's final bill actions underscore a more coordinated dynamic between the governor's office and the legislature, with policy outcomes shaped by late session negotiations and an emphasis on fiscal and operational feasibility. On the slide, you'll see some of the data or the stats regarding the end of session decisions. I'll just note here that this year's veto rate is lower than last year's. Last year's veto rate was about 15.7%. So seeing less bills vetoed. We can move on to the next slide, please. I just wanted to provide a brief recap of the November 4th elections, or Prop 50 being the one item on that ballot. While votes are still being counted, the latest results show that the margins have increased, with 64.1% voting yes as of this morning. For background, the measure was put on the ballot by Governor Newsom and the state legislature in response to mid-cycle partisan redistricting in Texas requested by President Trump. Proponents argue it levels the playing field against Republican efforts to gain congressional seats. The Prop 50 campaign quickly became one of the most expensive campaigns in California history, exceeding over $192 million raised in under 3 months. The Yes campaign vastly outraised opponents 3-1 by leveraging anti-Trump messaging, featuring former President Obama in high-profile ads. And the No campaign, led by former Governor Schwarzenegger, struggled to match the fundraising and messaging coordination of the Prop 50 supporters. Prop 50 served as a barometer for a handful of hopefuls in the upcoming elections. For Governor Newsom, this represented the biggest political test as he approaches his final year in office and positions himself for a likely run at the 2028 presidential ticket. This effort doubled his approval ratings in the polls from 12% to 25% between June and August. The measure also became a platform for potential 2026 gubernatorial candidates, including Katie Porter, billionaire Tom Steyer, and Rick Caruso, to raise their profiles. This proposition proposed to change some of the congressional districts within the state, and I'll just mention some of those members whose districts have been substantially changed, and that's Representative LaMalfa, Representative Kiley, Representative Valadeo, Representative Calvert, and Representative Issa. A more detailed analysis can be found in your agenda packets on page 26.
And just to note, none of our current federal delegation was impacted by the redistricting. So none of our current delegation had their boundaries changed with this event. Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Moving on to the next portion of the state update. In October, the Delta Conveyance Project, or DCP, crossed two key milestones. Both actions progressed the pre-construction planning and permitting processes, an effort that the Metropolitan Water District Board has been supporting. The California Department of Water Resources submitted a certification of consistency to the Delta Stewardship Council, affirming the project's alignment with the Delta Reform Act and its goals of protecting both the Delta ecosystem and statewide water reliability. In addition, the California Court of Appeals, Third District, overturned a lower court injunction allowing DWR to resume critical pre-construction geotechnical work such as soil testing and site analysis. Together, these developments mark significant progress in moving the project towards implementation, which the administration views as essential to offsetting projected water losses of up to 10% statewide and ensuring long-term stability of the state water project that serves millions of Californians. We could move on to the next slide, please. Another update for you regarding permit streamlining efforts. The Building an Affordable California Act was filed by the California Chamber of Commerce for the November 2026 ballot. This seeks to significantly streamline California's CEQA review process for projects deemed essential, including affordable housing, clean energy, transportation, wildfire resilience, and potentially water infrastructure. The measure would impose enforceable one-year deadlines for agencies to approve or deny environmental impact reports. It would limit lawsuits that delay projects by tightening rules around frivolous CEQA claims and broaden the exemptions and streamlining tools beyond the legislature's 2025 CEQA package. One that the West Basin Board supported. While the initiative is backed by the Cal Chamber and expected to draw support from developers and infrastructure interests, its implications for public water projects could be significant, potentially accelerating project delivery timelines, but also reducing local discretion and environmental review scope. The measure will need to qualify for the November 2026 ballot through signatures. And more to come on that. That concludes the state update. I'll just pause here briefly to see if there's any questions before I move on to the federal update.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, please continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman Gray. And so the federal updates begin on page 57 of the slides. Last evening, the Senate took its first procedural vote to advance a package to reopen the government, passing 60-40. The 8 Senate Democrats who voted to advance the measure believe that the current Democratic strategy was not working and the damage to the nation is mounting to a dangerous level. So this package includes a full fiscal year 26 appropriations bills funding the legislative branch, the Department of Agriculture, which includes SNAP benefits, and the Department of Veteran Affairs, and also the military Department of Military Construction. These bills have previously been negotiated and have buy-in from both parties in the Senate. The package also includes a continuing resolution extending current funding levels through January 30th of 2026 for all the other departments and agencies. The package also includes language rehiring federal workers fired through the reduction in force notices during the shutdown, and it also includes back pay for fired, furloughed, and working federal workers. However, this package does not include anything regarding the Affordable Care Act, enhanced premium tax credits, but the agreement promised by Senate Majority Leader Thune provides that the Senate will vote on a Democratic written ACA bill in December. Last night's vote was the first of several votes in the Senate, which will bleed into today and maybe beyond, depending on the cooperation from other senators. If that 60 senator coalition does hold and the package passes, it then turns to the House. House Democratic leadership, as well as many moderate Democrats, have already come out against the Senate bipartisan deal. This morning, Speaker Johnson stated in a press conference that he informed House members to return to DC. And so this can all be interpreted as Congress cleared an important hurdle to end this shutdown, but there are more hurdles ahead. And so we'll be keeping the board members updated on progress. Moving on to the next update regarding Senator Padilla and the 2026 gubernatorial race. On November 4th, Senator Padilla announced that he will stay in the Senate and not run for governor of California in 2026, amid the speculation that he might. Padilla has been among a list of Democrats to potentially succeed Governor Newsom, who is termed out. Padilla's profile rose this year as he found himself in the center of some of the most heated political battles between President Trump and his state, particularly on immigration. Declared candidates in the gubernatorial race include former Representative Porter, former Los Angeles Mayor Villaraigosa, and former Health and Human Services Secretary Becerra. If we could move on to the final update of on the federal side regarding the Colorado River negotiations. Negotiators from the 7 Colorado River Basin states remain deadlocked just days before or one day before the November 11 deadline to outline how the river will be managed when current rules expire at the end of next year. Despite 2 years of meetings, the same issues continue to stall progress. Chief among them is how much the lower and upper basin states must conserve during dry years and how the major reservoirs at Lakes Mead and Powell should be operated. The November 11th deadline was set by the Trump administration's lead Colorado River negotiator, Scott Cameron, who serves as the acting Bureau of Reclamation Commissioner. Reports are that Colorado River Basin states negotiators are more optimistic now that they have been in months, that they might be able to throw together some sort of a tentative deal that could get them through the immediate deadline. But even as they continue negotiating, it has also been reported that states are quietly beefing up their legal teams in the event the battle is determined through a high-stakes court fight. And so more information to come on Colorado River negotiations, and we're happy to keep the board updated on these. That concludes the federal update, unless.
Yeah, I would just mention that Augustine and I attended a meeting at Metropolitan Water District last week, and we had the opportunity to hear from Bill Hazenkamp, the Colorado River, kind of the lead on their negotiations. And he provided a really good overview of where things stand. And one of the questions is, well, what happens if they don't come to an agreement? And so it kind of sounds like if that does happen, there's a set of kind of guidelines or rules from the 1970s of long-term operations that could go into effect. And that's certainly still on the table right now. So even if that doesn't happen, there's also kind of a year gap or buffer between when the new agreements take effect. So even if they don't agree right now, they do still have some time into next year, into October, where they would have an opportunity to get that into place, which would then go into effect kind of the following period there. So there's still some time. So this is an initial deadline. It really is, but they still have a lot to work through, it sounds like. But there are some backup contingencies in place if it doesn't get agreed to by tomorrow.
Hold your breath.
That's for sure.
And Madam Chair, that concludes item 6A.
All right, any questions, directors,
No.
regarding 6A?
There are no questions.
Thank you. Can we move on to the next item, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Item 6B is our monthly Metropolitan Water District update. And for this presentation, we have Tammy Hurley-High, our Senior Water Policy and Resources Analyst. This item begins on packet page 60.
Thank you, EJ. Good afternoon, Chair Gray, Member Deere, and Director Barfe. So this report summarizes current program activities at the Metropolitan Water District. And they include Pure Water Southern California, the Sites Reservoir Project, near-term budget drivers, and then we'll conclude it with the water supply update. So in addition to the report in front of you, there are PowerPoint slides that begin on page 73 of the packet to help guide in the discussion. Thank you. So first off, we'll start with Pure Water Southern California. Shown here in this diagram is the status of where Metropolitan is with the Pure Water program. It has continued to make progress on environmental planning, engineering studies, and financial analysis to prepare for upcoming board decisions on this program. So last month, Metropolitan staff provided a report with updates on the various activities and the next step to advance the program. And Metropolitan staff is also engaged in collaboration with the member agencies and other program partners to develop the agreements for the water purchases in the future. So Metropolitan has been meeting with its member agencies, the Southern Nevada Water Authority, the Arizona parties, and San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District to develop a path that advances these partnerships. So based on these meetings, the development of the letters of intent, the term sheet, the interim agreement, and the long-term agreement during the period of operation. So staff will prepare additional information on the guiding principles for partnerships in November, and they will seek board approval for the principles in December. The Camp for Water assessment will also conclude in November. These activities will provide key information for the board to make the informed decisions in January on the C-Corps certification and then the overall program for the C-Corps purposes. And other decisions on program staging and implementation will follow the January action, the first or second quarter of 2026. Next slide, please. So in addition, for the Pure Water program, Metropolitan is exploring development of voluntary community benefits program. So this is in an effort to help address potential impact to the local communities where this project will be implemented and built. This would be a 5-part framework specific to Pure Water Southern California that would be shaped by community engagement. And those 5 components are shown here in this slide. So 1 is the regional water supply, quality and resilience benefits, community-focused program design, environmental mitigation, workforce development and local business opportunities, and additional community benefits. So next steps, the staff will consider and incorporate the board input to refine the proposed framework and to begin developing potential implementation paths. And further updates will be brought to the board as this planning process continues to advance. Next. Okay, so next is the Sites Reservoir Project. So this map shows where the Sites Reservoir Project would be located. And this is just north of the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta. This is a planned project that will store up to 1.5 million acre feet. This would be excess surface water that would be diverted from the Northern California, or excuse me, the Northern Sacramento River during high flow weather periods. And the storage reservoir would be used to supply waters during the drought periods under their newly assigned water right, which will be separate from the State Water Project's water rights. So the Sites Reservoir Project is governed by the Sites Project Joint Powers Authority, which was formed in 2010. And Metropolitan is a potential investor. Metropolitan has been paying to participate in the environmental review and their planning processes. The Sites Joint Powers Authority would own the new facility, and the participants, such as Metropolitan, would receive a capacity right with their respective investments. So last month in October, information was presented to the subcommittee on the site's plan of finance, as well as the key components of its funding, its financing, and the credit structure. So the information is intended to provide the board with a general framework for how the authority is approaching the development of its plan. A few months back in July, the board received a report on the cost estimates for the sites project. These cost estimates have increased from about $4 billion in 2021 dollars to about $7.5 billion in 2024 dollars. And this is due in part mainly to escalation of price increases and design development. So this item will be brought back to the board again with a focus on the financial assessment of the project. And we'll continue to keep this updated as these discussions continue at Metropolitan. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit here about the near-term budget drivers. Metropolitan staff, they presented near-term budget drivers and long-term resources plan. Their analysis provided an early assessment of the cost pressures anticipated for the next biennium budget. It also incorporates the known changes of the cost and revenues along with estimated additional expenditures. The analysis indicates that for the next biennium, 2 years for the budget, a 12% rate increase in 2027 would be needed, and a 6% increase in 2028 would be needed just to maintain the water distribution system. Next slide, please. So Metropolitan's long-term water reliability strategy includes several large-scale projects. These are currently under evaluation. These projects shown here represent significant capital investments that are aimed at enhancing regional water reliability, the operational flexibility, and the drought resilience. This particular slide identifies the other major capital projects that would lead to a 15% rate increase in 2026 and then an 8% increase in 2028. These projections will be further refined as new information becomes available, particularly for the projects that are still in the early planning stages, such as the State Water Project surface storage and the AVEC expansion and the phase 2. Next slide, please. So some takeaway observations. The financial analysis that Metropolitan staff presented demonstrates higher costs. This will lead to a transition into significant rate increases that are needed to maintain Metropolitan's current system. Pursuing major capital projects, the analysis that pursuing all of their major projects would incur further challenges on affordability for Metropolitan, its member agencies, and the communities they serve. Balancing objectives of supply and storage development, reliable system operation, and managing rate impacts is something Metropolitan will need to continue doing. And the Camp for Water process will be centered in this decision, which will help guide the board in determining how much future supply development should be pursued and when those investments should occur. So Metropolitan staff are working on preparing more information on the proposed biennial budget for board review and feedback. And the board will consider adopting the next biennium budget in April of 2026. Next slide, please. So we'll finish this off with the water supply update. The water year, our new water year started on October 1st. And for the State Water Project supplies that are shaded in that green area on the left, Lake Oroville's reservoir storage is 54% of total capacity and 101% of its historical average. The statewide precipitation accumulation is very close to average conditions. For the Colorado River supplies, last water year, it ended by falling below its average hydrology. Much of the decline was due to sustained below average precipitation in the upper basin. The bottom blue box on the right side is showing the current forecast for the unregulated inflow to Lake Powell. Excuse me, it's on the middle. And that is forecasted to be 79% of average or 7.6 million acre feet of inflow. So currently the water surface elevation in Lake Powell is 3,545 feet. It is currently at nearly 6.8 million acre feet of storage, or otherwise known as 28% of capacity. So next to that, the blue box on the left shows Lake Powell. If left of Lake Powell shows Lake Mead. Is the water surface elevation of Lake Mead is 1,057 feet. This is 6 feet lower than last year. Lake Mead currently has 8.25 million acre feet of storage, or 32% capacity. Reclamation just recently released its most probable 24-month study to estimate water levels for these two reservoirs. Reclamation estimates that Lake Powell's water level will be 34 feet lower than last year, at 3,538 feet in elevation by January 1st. Reclamation dry conditions forecast also say that Lake Powell would fall below 3,494 feet by December 2026. And Lake Mead's water level could fall below a key elevation of 1,035 feet by May 2027. At that point, Hoover Dam would have to turn off several of their turbines, and its power production would be significantly reduced. So a bit of, grim news, I guess, on the horizon. We hope that we get rain.
Do they have any way of replacing the power production elsewhere? Buying from other states or something?
Yeah, well, we're not at that point yet, but we had to go through this a couple of years, not too long ago, and they really had to come in with a phase 2 operation of really calling for a lot of areas to cut back on their electrical production or use, because as we know at this point, there are no backup.
But I think you're right, Director Deere. They would have to go out more onto the open market, and it'd be much more expensive and non-sustainable sources.
So the this other shaded blue box shows the shortage level operating guidelines. Shortage level 1 is triggered when Lake Mead's elevation is between 1,050 feet and 1,075 feet. There are no impacts to California, including Metropolitan, at the level 1 shortage. So wrap that up. That concludes this report, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions you have.
Madam Chair, that concludes the report.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions?
No questions?
No.
And thank you. Next item, please.
Madam Chair, that concludes our information calendar and brings us to closed session, of which we have no closed session items today.
All right, the next item is director's comments and adjournment. Or next, is that the next item?
It's director's comments and future agenda items.
All right, any comments, directors?
No comments?
Nope.
All right, thank you. Thank you to staff for your reports. Thank you, directors who attended. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.